bookish friends. In this video I will talk about my most surprising 5 books of 2021. With the word surprising, I mean I was pleasantly surprised when I read the book. I did not guess that I would like these books so much. Although they were not the best books for me in 2021 because I have a upcoming video about those books. These 5 books were definitely among my favorite books of 2021. So let's go back to the month in which I reviewed those books. The last book that I finished just today, on 16th, was another audiobook, Kırmızı Pazartesi, which has an English title of Chronicle of a Death Foretold, written by Gabriel García Márquez. This book was a bonus edition in my May reading because I've come across a post saying that a rather famous theatrical actor would read this book in 6 days for half an hour every day. Since I was on holiday this week, I said why not listen to it. I think the English title of this book really sums up what is happening in the book. It talks about a death that happened in a small town in Colombia. And everyone somehow was aware of this murder would likely to be happened. They weren't sure maybe, but they were warned beforehand, with the exception of the victim, of course. It told events leading up to this murder from very different points of view. It was a very interesting book and I gave it an 8 out of 10. The writing style was really beautiful and although I'm not a big fan of details in literature, I have to say I was very interested. Although this book cannot be classified as a mystery in any sense, I liked the psychological point of view of why the people who had been warned never said anything to the victim because they thought they didn't believe that it would happen. So it was a very interesting analysis of the society in that sense. I previously read Gabriel García Márquez's previous work, 100 Years of Solitude, and I have to add, I found it too long to enjoy it. But now, since I'm more used to reading longer books, I will certainly reread this book in the future. Márquez's writing style was really beautiful. And the last book that I finished in the first half of February was also another body read, My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brodi, Ashton and Jodi Meadows. I body read this book with Victoria at a musical bookworm. The book talks about an alternative universe in which Jane Grey is not beheaded after she becomes queen for 9 days. It has some fantasy elements which I will not talk about because it was very enjoyable to read without knowing what they would be. I found the book to be surprisingly good for me. It's a young adult book which is an age range that I'm least comfortable with, and it has some humor in it as well, which is something that I feel even less comfortable with. But in this book, because the humor sort of went towards absurdity, which is something that I like very much, I found myself laughing out loud in some parts and most of the time chuckling at some of the inner jokes that the book has. And also the writing style of the authors were fantastic because it was clear that they were not taking their story very seriously. On the other hand, the book had very good messages towards young adult readers. Without talking about the religion aspect, which is a very touchy subject to talk about to young adult readers who can be fanatical, they made up an another conflict and gave their message of being more tolerant and less prejudiced towards people with other characteristics, which was a very clever move on the author's part. So with all of these things combined, I gave the book a high 8 out of 10. I have to say, the body reading experience made me enjoy the book much more. Victoria loved the book. It was wonderful to hear her uplifting voice and her laughs while talking about the book. Thank you, Victoria. I cannot wait to body read another book with you. I read the most pleasantly surprising book of the month for me, which was a book that I received from Book Science for honest review. It was a historical fiction book called Augustina de Aragon by Gail Meath. This book takes place in a time period which I had no knowledge before. The book takes place in Spain when France and Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Spain, and it tells the story of a real-life figure, Augustina de Aragon, and her sort of fictionalized life story. She was sort of like a resistant leader in the France invasion, and received many honors in the army, which was a first for a woman. This book focused more on the romance, especially in the first half. But in the second half, there were some bits about the resistance and how they fought back. And I think I like those parts a bit better than the first part. Even though her romance with her husband was also very pure and sweet. I also really liked the writing style of Gail Meath. I will certainly read more from this author. As I've said before, this was a big pleasant surprise for me. I finished the second book in a series and finished the duology, My Brother's Husband, Volume 2 by Gengoroh, Tagame. In this graphic novel, a single father is visited by his twin brother's husband, who's from Canada, and the story takes place in Japan. And I also gave the second volume of the graphic novel an 8 out of 10. And actually I cried at the end, which is something that I thought I'd never do in a graphic novel. I loved the sweet relationship between the little girl and her newfound uncle. It was so sweet. And I also really liked how the single father recognized his own embedded prejudices against gay people, how he chose not to talk about that subject with his twin brother. He realized that this was not acceptance, this was just ignorance. I think it's a very worthwhile graphic novel to read. I decided to pick up a book that was recommended by Courtney Ferritier, which was An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Helene Turston. This book was originally written in Swedish, and it consisted of short stories told from the point of view of a very elderly woman who's 88 years old. And one of the short stories were told from the perspective of her neighbor. First of all, I loved being in the mind of Maud, who's the elderly lady. How she rationalized the acts that she was doing. The beauty of the book was not in the killing part. The beauty of the book was the dark humor, which is a subject that is actually a hit or miss for me, and this was certainly a hit. I want to thank Courtney for recommending this book to me, and I'm very glad my Storytel application has more books from this author. I cannot wait to read her wonderful writing style. And overall, I gave this book an 8 out of 10. Those were my top 5 pleasantly surprising books of 2021. Please comment down below, have you read any of the books I mentioned in this video? And if you're a new viewer, first of all, welcome. Please like and subscribe. Hope to see you very soon. Bye. For Turkish word of the day, since one of the books that I mentioned in this video was My Brother's Husband, I thought brother should be the word of the day. Brother means erkek kardeş in Turkish, and erkek kardeş are our Turkish words of the day. Have a good day.